Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to the Media Literacy Guidebook. Today we're going to explore a little bit on light, color, and your eyes. Blink and you'll miss it. Before we can talk about the eye, we need to talk about light. The story of learning about light is fascinating, but for the sake of time we'll only cover the big highlights. In 1000 CE, Allyn, a scientist from a region of the world that is today known as Iraq, made the argument that light came from the sun. But it wasn't until 1666 Common Era that Sir Isaac Newton, in an experiment using two prisms, proved that light came from the sun and similar light sources. In 1800, scientist William Herschel discovered that each color band projected from a prism has a distinct temperature. Additionally, when he moved his thermometer to each side of the color spectrum, where you couldn't see light, he detected further temperatures. A year later, in 1801, Thomas Young and Hermann von Helmholtz independently announced that only 3 colors were necessary to produce every color that we see: red, green, and blue. Later in time, in 1861, James Maxwell discovered that electricity and magnetism are actually the same type of force, known as, wait for it, electromagnetic energy. As a quick sidebar, these discoveries inspired scientists like Heinrich Hertz and Albert Einstein to do further exploring, in part leading to Hertz discovering radio waves and Einstein's discovery of ultraviolet waves. So, what exactly is light? Light is a narrow band of wavelength frequencies along the electromagnetic spectrum, which includes extremely fast-moving cosmic, gamma, and X-rays, visible light in the form of colors, and slower-moving waves such as microwaves and radio waves. It's a collection of wavelength frequencies. And it should be noted that the color red is somewhat special. Ever notice if it's used a lot for emergency purposes? That's for a couple of reasons. First, it has the longest wavelength of any of the colors, and more importantly, because of that, the color red stays in our eyes and brain the longest. We're noticed, attracted to, and warned by the color red. So now that we've figured out light, let's move on to the eye. How do our eyes take in all this information, and why care about it? Knowing how the eye works is actually pretty important, since cameras are made to mimic the action of an eye. Let's break this down. First, we have the eyelids, or the camera equivalent, the shutter, both which allow light to enter the eye. The pupil, or aperture, controls the amount of light entering the eye or the camera. The lens, or camera lens, focuses the images that you see on your retina or film plane, and the retina, or film and pixel screen, converts the electromagnetic energy into chemical energy to be processed by the brain, or, a photoprocessor. To add on to this, the retina is a small area in the back of the eye. The conversion of electromagnetic energy to chemical energy is done by photosensitive nerve cells called rods and cones, which are so named for their shapes. Rods are used for seeing under low light conditions, whereas cones let us see colors since they're sensitive to electromagnetic wavelengths. So now that we have an understanding of how light and the eye and camera interpret it, let's move on to color. There are 3 ways to talk about color: objectively, comparatively, and subjectively. Objective is just that. Each color has its own wavelength and temperature on a scale. For example, a nice baby blue color like this would be 9068 degrees Kelvin, whereas a bright orange like this would be 1500 degrees Kelvin. This is important to know if you're working in any sort of medium that uses colors. For example, understanding objective light helps filmmakers get the correct lighting for their scenes. Next, comparative. Most of us tend to use the comparative method when discussing color. This is color that isn't described by its wavelength and temperature, but it's described in comparison to another agreed upon and known entity. Put another way, this is when you describe something as, for example, robin's egg blue, green grass, the colors of a sunset. The shades may vary depending on a variety of factors: where you live, the shades used, the type of soil, the weather, so on. But you have a general understanding of what someone is referring to. Finally, there's subjective. This would be the least accurate way of describing color, but it's arguably the most interesting as it's used to evoke emotion. You have to be careful when designing with subjectivity in mind, as a color's meaning may vary depending on the audience experience as well as their cultural values. Going back to the color red from our earlier example, red might remind people of blood or danger, hence another reason for using it for emergencies, or a big stop sign. Personally, I'd be offended if I had a house with a yellow color scheme, as I just hate the color. But this is, as the name implies, subjective, so you have to use your best judgment when using color in this way. So this is short and sweet, and that's going to be it for me today, but there's lots more on the way. Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about form and movement, and we'll begin to explore how we use colors, form, and movement in media to get our message across. Today's video was sourced from the book Visual Journalism, A Guide for New Media Professionals, so if you'd like to read up on more information related to this, go ahead and give it a read. For today's recommended media, check out Color Theory and Wes Anderson's Style by YouTube channel Studio Binder. It explains the premises of hue, saturation, and brightness, as well as explaining how film director Wes Anderson uses color in various ways to tell a story. It's a charming video. Go give it a watch. While I have you here, I'd also like to do a viewer response video. If you have any questions about what we've covered so far, what you'd like me to cover, or anything related to media theory, please comment below in the down there part, or send me an email at twitchladygoggles@gmail.com. You should be seeing it on the screen right now. If I can get your questions by mid-March, I'd be happy to answer them in a future video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Take care. So, hey, thanks for sticking around with me. Grad school started at the beginning of this month, so I've had to shift my focus to that for obvious reasons. I'm still dedicated to making videos for this channel. I don't know if you can hear the cats behind me in the background. But the videos might be a little bit slower in releasing for the next couple of months since grad school's a little time-consuming, to say the least. Once again, big thank you to my patrons. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to afford the Adobe suite used to make these videos, since Adobe still relies on subscription models because of money. Great. These videos are free to watch, but they're not free to make. So if you like what you've seen and you want to support it, please consider becoming a patron, or leave me a one-time tip over on PayPal. All of these links are in the down there part. Also, if you'd like to see me live, I try to stream every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on twitch.tv/ladygoggles. I do a variety of games for a couple of hours, and it's a lot of fun. Be nice to see you there. I say I try to stream because, again, grad school commitments, and I have chronic pain, so sometimes I don't make every Sunday, but that's the goal. Alright, all my shilling is over. Thank you if you've watched this far. Have a great time zone. Day, afternoon, evening. Stay healthy and stay safe. Bye for now.